I think Donald Trump listens to Donald Trump, which again is kind of a problem. He said he would hire the best and the brightest.
Sarah Isgur Flores is here. She has worked for, are you ready? Cruz, Fiorina, Romney, RNC. That's what we call bona fides. She is occupying for tonight the Nicole Wallace seat on the court for the remainder of the evening. And so it is appropriate to ask you what you make of all this conversation. It's as if there is a federal law passed that 30% of our time, every time we do this, is devoted to the status of the Stop Trump movement within the GOP.
I think that's fitting. I think it could be probably more like 50%, although we've yet to see that because we still have 3 people in the race. But at this point, the Stop Trump movement is a very real movement within the Republican Party. And up until tonight, we saw that in closed primaries. I think this will be the first closed primary that Donald Trump has actually won among Republican voters. So that in and of itself is a first for Donald Trump.
He does appear to be winning by a mile. I mean, we don't have all the results in yet right now. I was just looking at those Arizona results as they were coming in. 65% of the vote in right now. He's up by 24 points.
Yes, but and correct me if I'm wrong, all of those numbers are still the early vote numbers. And what the Cruz campaign has said is that it's the election day numbers. They're going to show the movement once it narrowed down into a 3-man race and will show their momentum, that plus the Utah numbers, which I think they expect to come in very heavily for Ted Cruz, well above 50% potentially. And that's going to take them to Wisconsin.
Do you think there's any possibility that if this were to continue, if he were to behave the way he has over the past week for the next 4 or 5 weeks, something like that could happen in Cleveland?
I think it'll be really tough for that to happen in Cleveland. I've never seen so many Republicans so grateful for a teleprompter as they were last night. It was the night of the teleprompter. I think that was the real star coming out of that speech. Well done, teleprompters 1 and 2. But I really question whether it's a practical thought that we're going to change the rules of the convention and kick out Donald Trump. As much as I wish it were a realistic possibility, I think that's tough. That being said, the last week that Donald Trump has had has sure made that more likely. I think letting delegates vote their conscience is a completely acceptable thing. That's how the process works. I think even then, though, it will actually still turn out to be the nomination of Donald Trump because so many of those delegates will feel a responsibility to the voters of their state. That being said, as others have said, the Republican Party right now is engaged to Donald Trump. They're not married yet. The wedding's at the convention, and plenty of engagements do get broken off.
Sarah Isgur Flores is the former deputy campaign manager for Carly Fiorina for president. Let's start there. Is this thing going to be wrapped up by then?
I don't think so. It doesn't look that way. Donald Trump's campaign has been in utter chaos for the last 2 weeks. He's been hurting himself. Then his team's been hurting him as well. I don't see him getting over the finish line at this point.
MSNBC's Benji Sarlin reported on the problems that Trump had at the Colorado Republican Convention on Saturday, saying that Trump backers passed out flyers at the convention site with official campaign slate of 13 delegates and 13 alternates accompanied by their 3-digit number position on that 600-plus person ballot. 7 of the names, however, directed people to the wrong number, and 1 delegate's name was misspelled. First of all, how does something like that happen? And secondly, Sarah, is Paul Manafort the guy to right this ship?
I mean, this is the guy, the candidate who is running that he's going to hire the best people, that he can turn around the White House, that he can turn around the country. I don't think so. He can't get a delegate's name right. He didn't win a single delegate against Cruz. I mean, the Cruz team has been blocking and tackling as best as any campaign team has ever done. I think they'll continue to do that. And then you have John Kasich, who's still running 4th in a 3-man race. So I think this will go to the convention. I think Kasich will be a non-entity, and I think Trump is collapsing under the weight of his own Twitter account. I think when we get to a contested convention, the delegates that are there represent the Republican Party and they represent conservatives. Donald Trump has shown over and over again that he's not the conservative option. Ted Cruz's campaign, on the other hand, has been on the ground showing their high skill set at this sort of blocking and tackling of day-to-day political campaigns. And I think that they have done a much better job selecting delegates that will be favorable to them on a second ballot. At the same time, we've seen the internal collapse, if you will, of the Trump campaign.
Unlike other political aides and insiders, a former campaign aide for Carly Fiorina isn't getting on the Trump train. Sarah Isker Flores, the former deputy campaign manager to Carly Fiorina, said she would not vote for Donald Trump if he is the Republican nominee. When asked point blank if she would support Trump, Flores said, "You know, I actually haven't been asked that yet, but I think the answer is no." Like many other top Republicans, Flores is hoping for a contested or brokered convention.
Show up. That's how easy it is. Yeah, you may not be on payroll the first day, but if you keep showing up, if you treat it like a job, and if you show that you add value, you'll get on payroll. That won't be the problem. You'll have too much to do soon. So it's one of the easiest jobs to get. Show up.